Welcome back to Season 6 of the Group Practice Accelerator podcast, brought to you by Polaris Healthcare Partners, where we leverage decades of healthcare and business experience to drive growth in successful group practices just like yours. If you're a healthcare entrepreneur and you're interested in building, scaling, or exiting your group practice, you've found not only the industry's leading resource for business education, but a team of trusted advisors dedicated to helping you achieve and exceed your goals. In short, the team at Polaris creates clarity, confidence, and results. I'm your host, Jamie Falasz, and the Group Practice Accelerator podcast is on the air. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me again this week. I'm really excited about this episode because we've got a big announcement to make, and that's the launch of Polaris Europe. Yep, you heard that right. We've expanded across the pond, so to speak, and we want to share in today's episode a few things. First, our why we're expanding into Europe. And secondly, our who will be representing Polaris in the EU. I'm going to leave the why to today's episode guests, but I'll happily get us started with some introductions. First, you all know our founder and CEO, Diwakar Sinha. Welcome back, Diwakar.
Thank you.
And I'm pleased to introduce to you all Dr. Rahul Doshi, Polaris's EU partner and our newest teammate. Rahul is not only a dentist, but a sought-after international speaker who built his own very successful dental group practice and exited. He's also the founder of the Advanced Training Institute, and he brings proven strategies for profitability, clinical development, and optimization, among many other accolades. And with that, Rahul, we're so excited that you're here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here myself.
Well, wonderful. We'll kick it off with you. Dr. Doshi, if you wouldn't mind starting with a bit of your background, and then we'll kind of get into, how you ended up here at Polaris, how we all met, and we'll get into a little of our why then.
Sure, of course. So I'll start. What I'm doing right now is that I'm an expert in strategic growth and development of dental practices in groups. And I do that right now with my wife, Dr. Rahul Doshi, in Dental Wealth Builder, which we founded 25 years ago. We're helping transform dental practices into scalable, high-profit businesses using really proven frameworks of leadership, sales, marketing, and also driving predictable growth. But my journey started 30 years ago when I was part of a handful of dentists who pioneered the development of cosmetic dentistry into the UK. I ran one of the first of its kind clinical residency courses on teaching hands-on cosmetic dentistry, following live patients through diagnosis, treatment planning, communication, and delivery. And I was also the president of the British Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry. But my experience really spans practice ownership, scaling, and group level strategy. So I began as a multi-practice owner with a focus on building high-performing individual practices, developing repeatable growth systems, and creating clinical and commercial foundations. I was also one of the founding partners of Dentex Healthcare Group, which scaled from 0 to 185 practices in a 5-year period. And this was really an acquisition-led expansion, integrating practices into a central growth platform. I was part of the executive leadership team, where I was present as a clinical director, where my remit was really strategic growth and development rather than the compliance-led role that most clinical directors have. So an important part of my role was being part of the investment committee, where we were evaluating acquisition opportunities, supporting due diligence, and also supporting post-acquisition growth. So that's my background.
That does it a lot more justice than I would have in my brief intro. Thank you for going through that with us. And you have so much experience to share. We're so excited to have you on board. And I know when we met, it's been probably close to a couple of years now that we met. This has sort of evolved into this wonderful partnership. So we're really excited to announce this to our listening audience and offer this to clients in Europe as well. Diwakar, I want to jump to you because we said in the intro that we're going to discuss our why. Why now? Why are we expanding into Europe? What makes this a good time?
Sure. I think so for Polaris, it was twofold, right? One is looking at the market, where the UK and the European market is, and the tremendous run rate as far as opportunity to work with the dentists in the market and in those verticals. The UK and European market are going through tremendous growth. They're starting to see the early stages of group practices forming. And there's really a vacuum in the space for similar to the US market. We go back like 10 years ago to transaction advisory. And as Rahul said, growth advisory to how to execute platform. And so for us, it was finding the right partner, number one, that could help drive that process of growth and transaction advisory, and also the right person that had the depth and the breadth in the space. And Rahul brings tremendous expertise, insight into the market, and is well connected in the space and well respected in the space. And for us, I couldn't be happier about this opportunity for us to partner up with Rahul in the European market.
Now, Rahul, can you talk to us a little bit about your transaction experience with your own group? Like what worked well for you? What would you do differently? Things like that.
So actually, before joining Dentex, we were really operationally efficient. We were actually providing clinical excellence because I was teaching it as well. We built a brand that was actually visible nationally. So we were part of a TV series called Extreme Makeover, which was, and we were the most featured dentist on there. So we had a lot of media presence, and we developed a patient communication and also a marketing sort of performance, which was really, doing really well, almost at an optimal level. And there was a trajectory of growth that we had. So we weren't really looking to sell. The decision really was not an exit, but really a growth strategy. So when we joined Dentex, this was really to accelerate our expansion, really beyond what we could do individually. That's me and my wife, Bhavna. So the key drivers here were access to investment capital, central support infrastructure, but also the platform to acquire and integrate additional practices at scale. So we were really passionate about what we were doing. We actually, I think, came across well when we had our conversations, and that really helped our enterprise value. So that was really my journey of the group joining Dentex, but also I was involved with the transaction when Dentex actually exited as well. So I can talk a little bit about that if you want.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So with Dentex, whilst I was with them, I was with them as a partner right from the beginning. And as I said, we grew from 0 to 180 practices, but they were getting advice really early on with mid-market investment banks to help them guide them on creating a platform to understand the KPIs and the parts of a business which would be attractive to buyers. So one of the things that Dentex did well was develop a strong executive leadership team. And then a couple of years before transaction, there was a focused plan, really with an eye on what would be an optimum pitch deck. So the objective was not just to have operational efficiency, but also to have growth systems that created an opportunity that the new buyer would benefit from. So there was a real focus on maximizing the enterprise value by creating a strong sort of foundation and platform.
And let's go back to what worked really well. If you think back to that whole transaction experience, actually both of them, what did you feel worked really well? And what would you do a little differently if you had it to do over again?
I can talk about my transaction into Dentex. So what was really well is that we weren't looking to sell. And that means that when we were talking to them, we were deciding whether to exit as such for that opportunity. And we came across well because we were really passionate about what we were still doing. Everything was really going well. So that was the good side. What would I do differently? I think at that time there weren't really any advisory people to advise me personally on the actual transaction. We had solicitors, we had lawyers to actually help with the transaction, but they're not really commercial advisors of whether this was the right deal, whether it's the right group, which turned out to be correct. So Dentex was an amazing group to work with, but that was more potentially luck rather than being advised on looking at the background, looking at the investors of Dentex, which were amazing, by the way, but it worked out well, but it may not have if I'd had some advice potentially, and if it was the wrong route.
Yeah, for sure. And, going back to that piece you said on being passionate about what you do, that's, in fact, I think it was an episode that you and I just did, Diwakar, just a few weeks ago, talking about how much more attractive your business is when you're passionate about it. So that's proof right there. Now, I want to go back to our why for a second. And Diwakar, I'll go to you first on this. How do you feel that practices in the EU can maximize their value? If we want to talk about it from maybe a high level aspect first.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll kind of echo to Rahul's point, right? I think first of all, having the right advisory firm allows you to position yourself not on just the economic side of the deal, but also the structure side of the deal, and make sure that all the diligence is done to help position it the right way. So, in addition to that, I would say the other aspects is continue to look at the operational efficiencies, and working towards what does scale mean. I think Rahul brought in a good point. They had good bankers in place that helped them guide the path to having that event, right, from a Dentech side. So I think, dentist practice owners that are 2 locations, 5 locations, 25 locations in the EU, UK market should have the right banker, even if they're not ready today in 2026, engaging the right advisory firm to provide them the guidance of what does an exit look like. And to Rahul's point, an exit is not walking away from the business. An exit is bringing in the right partner to kind of continue the journey. And I think that's probably the most common misconception, that, when you bring in a strategic partner, you're giving up your business. And I think that the right way to bring it upon is, this is the next phase of evolution for my practice, for my patients, and for me as an entrepreneur.
And Rahul, I'm going to go to you with that same question about how practices from a high level in Europe can maximize their value, other than being on Extreme Makeover, because I did not know this about you until today, and I love this. I'm going to have to go watch it. I'm going to have to go check out those episodes. But yeah, outside of that, how can practices maximize their value?
I think I just echo what Diwakar says, to be honest with you. But I think if I go to one thing, it's really, how do I build something that somebody else will value highly? And that means looking at all facets of the business. And that's literally that one question. If you answer that and look at every single facet of the group, that's what you do.
And I'll stick with you for now. Let's get into some specifics then. How can they prepare for growth and exit? Because I know that you've been through this. What's your advice there?
I mean, I think first of all, obviously, you've got to look at the figures and get some financial clarity. Make sure that the practice owners understand the numbers, not just the turnover, but really all the numbers, whether it's the EBITDA, the actual dental performance, the hygiene performance, the treatment acceptance rate, the marketing ROI, and understand if there's a cost leakage and prepare for that. So you also want to be operationally efficient, but not really mean with that efficiency, where you're actually almost stifling the growth because of that. You want to be able to create systems, especially leadership depth. So you've got actually the actual group can run without your presence, and there's a leadership structure in place to help guide all these different areas. So there is team accountability, and therefore they drive the actual growth as well. And then, of course, there is the actual clinical scalability, because that is the bread and butter of the business. The clinical quality, you want to create consistent diagnosis, treatment planning, case acceptance, also making sure that the governance is there. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of practices underestimate what's really required, because they're not small tweaks, really. They're really structural sort of focuses that need to have in place.
Yeah, very well said. Good points. Diwakar, same question to you if we're looking at specifics as practices prepare for growth and exit.
Yeah, so I think this goes through my previous statement. I think as businesses thinking about 6 months down the road or 5 years down the road about an exit, the question ends up being, what does their transition to the next evolution look like? What does the right partner look like for them? And what do they want the right partner to be? So the best way I analyze, analogy-wise, look at it as a house, right? So, we don't want to paint the walls gold and then thinking about selling the house. I mean, maybe in some places that would work well, or orange, right? Yeah. My apologies to anybody that has their walls gold or orange. But you want to create a business that is, number one, to Rahul's point, creates a clinical philosophy that you would want, not just for yourself, your patients, but for the next evolution of the business. But when you go outside that and you look at the financial performance and you say, okay, that's a business that if I was on the other side, I would want to buy. And I think that's a good way to kind of think about the business you're building culturally. I mean, you want good employee retention, good patient retention, and thinking about scale to say, okay, this can be replicated from 1 practice to 5 practices to 25 practices, and that makes the opportunity for those entrepreneurs really attractive, because then you start looking at the broader market space of bringing in a sponsor, a private equity firm, or strategic partner, and we have the ability to look at it from not just a individual state level, across international aspects around the world.
Yeah, 100%. Well said, and some great ways to grow the valuation and prepare for exit well in advance. Rahul, I want to go back to you for our final segment here. I know you're excited to get this launched into the market. Tell us what you have coming up.
So really, there are lots of events that are coming up in the dental world in the UK right now. So it's a great opportunity for me to talk to people at these events. So that's one thing. We also have events being held by different various groups that occur in the autumn. So hope to be present there as well. So those are the key things that are coming up right now.
Well, so many exciting things to share with our audience. Rahul Diwakar, great to have you on the show today. Dr. Doshi, welcome to the team. We're proud to have you on board. For our listeners in the EU, you can go to PolarisHealthcarePartners.com/Europe to learn more. And Rahul, do you want to give your email so people can reach out directly?
Absolutely. So it's Rahul@PolarisHealthcarePartners.com.
Perfect. Thank you both again. We appreciate your time today, and we're excited to get this going.
We're excited. Rahul, welcome on board.
Super excited myself as well. Thank you.
So to our audience, be sure to reach out and get to know Rahul. And to our entire audience, we love the questions that you all send us, so keep them coming. And we'll keep delivering the content that you ask for. As always, if you want to learn about any of our Polaris expert advisory services, or maybe there's a topic that we haven't covered that you'd like to hear about, you could send us an email to info@PolarisHealthcarePartners.com, and be sure to visit our website at PolarisHealthcarePartners.com, where you'll find weekly articles from Diwakar to grow and support your healthcare business, along with access to all podcast episodes, events, and much more. Thanks so much for being a loyal listener and subscriber. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a colleague, and be sure to leave us a rating on any of your favorite podcast platforms. We'll see you on the next episode of the Group Practice Accelerator Podcast.